Hello everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack and this is the Bismarck, and the Bismarck has become a bit of a problem. So by the end of the last video I was left with two options. Either I would doggedly carry on and go for a full-on respray of this car, which would really also mean pretty much a full restoration, or I would just sell it and get rid of it and that would be the end of it. And that seemed to be the option that was preferred by most of you, to be quite honest. You sort of recommended just run while you can. The thing is, around the same time, I sold the Tomato. So I started having to use this as my daily because the Lexus that I bought is leaking like a sieve and isn't ready to be used, isn't usable as an everyday car. And for the past 2 weeks, I've been driving this around. And predictably, it has slightly wormed its way into my affections because it's kind of worked. It hasn't let me down, and actually I find it a really nice drive. I know when I took it to Ollie, he drove it and he said, oh well, W124s, they just mask their issues really well. But I think this car drives really quite nicely, all things considered. And I just started thinking, well, you know, what am I going to do? Now let's just quickly go back to why I bought this in the first place. Now I really like W124s, and when I first got it, I thought that it was actually quite a good car. I had a look underneath. There wasn't much rust to speak of, so there's a bit of rust under the washer bottle, but it's not structural, so I'm not worried about that. And the same goes for the rear arches. It's just towards the back bit of the rear arches where there's a little bit of filler. So again, each one of those is fine, not a big deal. But when I took it to Ollie at PCS, he had a look and he found some other stuff. And by the end of the last video, I was really quite dispirited. But then, as I've said, I've been forced to drive it and I actually like it. And I just started to think, you know, what other options are there? Now, there's a few things about driving it that do need to be sorted. So it has I think it has a bit missing from the low end. So there's a little bit of a stumble, maybe a misfire at idle, which means that it feels like it's maybe going to stall at traffic lights. And then as well as that horrible cherry bomb homemade exhaust that it has. And of course the way it looks, that's a big problem, because when you're driving somewhere and you park it up, it's quite frankly just embarrassing. So what I thought was, well, I'm going to try and sort out the engine issues first and foremost, and just try and sort out the idle, misfire and the low speed stuff. I think it's probably, and Ollie thought it was going to be an ignition issue, so probably the distributor. I have already cleaned that up. It did have some corrosion on it. Cleaning it didn't make any difference, but I don't think that's enough. I think it needs to be replaced. I also need to look at the plugs and other bits and bobs. But I'm pretty confident I can get it to run properly. If I can, what I want to do is that I can't go for a full-on professional respray because, well, I could do, but it's just not worth me doing, and it doesn't make any sense on this car because it would just become a full restoration. If I do a professional respray, well, I'm going to have to sort out those rear arches. That means sorting out some metalwork, welding, and before you know it, you're into mission creep. And I have other projects. I have the Ferrari, I have the Sprite, I have the Lotus. They all need work, and I don't want another full-on restoration. So what I've decided to do instead is just go for a homebrew respray. I just need to make it more usable. Also, I thought it might be a really good fun for YouTube, for you guys to see me struggling with a rattle can spray job on this car. Now, I measured up my garage and it just about fits in there, but there's not going to be enough room then to do a repaint. So I'm going to use my mate Andy. He's going to let me use his spray booth. So I do have a proper spray booth. But I am going to use rattle cans, and that's both for cost, but also just because I think it will be fun. You've seen what I've done in the past when I tried to spray my Merc, and what a good job I did of that. So no doubt it's going to have some moments, this respray. But at the end of the day, it will definitely look better than it does or at this point in time. So the main thing will be just to make it a more usable car, have a lot of fun while I'm doing it, and ultimately not abandoning a project. I've never really abandoned a project, and I don't think this is bad. I think the main problem was the original plan that I had, the thesis, well, the idea that I had, which was just, you know, get this used car for 1,200 quid and then do a professional respray. Well, That's just not going to work. You either do a full restoration with a car like this, or you go for an in-between option, which is what I'm going to do. If that all works out, and I think it will, then I'm going to sort out those front brake lines that are a bit too thin, get the front ball joint done, and then it's going to be a good usable car. You may think I'm completely nuts, but just let me know what you think. I think I'm really looking forward to it, and I probably won't be looking forward to it while I'm doing it, but at the moment I think it's going to be great, and the potential, even if it's not a great paint job, the potential for how transformed this is going to be is just, I think, makes it completely worthwhile. Do let me know what you think. Maybe you think I'm nuts. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I think at the end of the day, I'm a bit worried that I'm not going to please either the purists or everyone else who wanted me to get rid of it. But I think it's a good way forward, and I don't have that much invested in this car. And I think it's going to be fun. Thank you so much for watching. See you for the next one.